right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday night, a week after our Thanksgiving preview here on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. But as always, we're back to kind of give a conclusion on Thanksgiving week. It's easily one of the biggest weeks in football, I have to say. But before we hop into that, I'm your host, Chet. And of course, to my right is my wonderful counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, we had ourselves quite a Thanksgiving game, I got to say. I mean, that was like we said, we probably said it the last couple of weeks now. This has to be one of the best of the bunch that we've ever covered.
Yeah, we had a great game between East Providence and LaSalle here on Fans Only Sports. It was a shootout, 41-36, the final. LaSalle winning it on a game-winning drive. And, I mean, it was a great game. It was very unexpected, the shootout. And not a lot of defense, but as it should be on Thanksgiving. You know, all these guys get different guys getting touchdowns, different guys involved. Had a lot of different players in the field for both those two teams. So it was a great game. It was a great, final hurrah for a lot of these high school seniors, and it was awesome.
Absolutely, my bad. I'll be chewing some of my food a little bit. Got a little bit late on the dinner side of things here, but absolutely. I mean, going into that game, I honestly kind of expected that we were going to be covering a blowout. Like, I didn't expect that East Providence would put up the fight it did. But I got to say, it made for a very entertaining morning, despite it being very cold in that press box. And it gave us a lot to talk about. And that's the one thing we love about sports is we love to talk. And that's what we do best is commentate. And with that being said, I definitely look forward to what we bring this season on Fans Only Sports. Winter session about to begin as of this weekend. A lot of hockey games on the ticker. We'll, of course, be able to give you those updates this Thursday because we'll actually be given our assignments by then. But high school hockey and basketball going to be opening up in the state of Rhode Island. I'm sure, Duffy, I know you were really licking your chops last season to get on some basketball games, so I know you're excited for that.
Very excited for that. Basketball's going to be cool. We're going to have a lot of Cranston East, Cranston West games. We're going to have all those games, actually. And hockey season right around the cusp, like you said. I'm very excited. A lot of good stuff coming up on Fans Only Sports. This is probably our busiest season of the year, hockey season. And now that we have basketball as well, gonna have a lot of different guys doing things up their alleys, different times of the week too. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So very excited.
Absolutely. A lot of exciting things happening here. And if you want to join in on that exciting action, go to fansonlysports.com. You can see it right there. Fans Only Sports with a Z at the end.com. And purchase your single game or season live stream passes. We will, of course, have complimentary free games for you to view. But if you want to ensure that you never miss a moment, just go to fansonlysports.com to purchase your single game ticket passes and your season passes. So with that being said, let's hop right into the professional sports world. We're going to start off with the New England Patriots. The Patriots played on Thanksgiving night, and we were expecting a very, very interesting game, and it turned out to be quite a game in and of itself. Patriots went toe-to-toe with the Minnesota Vikings, but were soundly defeated at the end of the day by a final score of 33-26. Mac Jones played arguably one of the best games of his career, and in fact, probably the best, well, without a doubt, the best game of the entire season, throwing for 382 passing yards and 2 touchdowns on the day. And both of those touchdowns, one went to Nelson Aguilar, the other to Hunter Henry. And, of course, there was a lot of controversy, a lot with that Hunter Henry touchdown that was called back. That was definitely something. I felt the referees were really giving a lot to the Minnesota Vikings in this one. But the Vikings walked away victorious at the end of the day. Justin Jefferson had quite a game. Kirk Cousins did what he needed to do to keep the team where it was.
Yeah, that hurt. That game hurt a lot as a Patriots. Probably the most disappointed I've been as a football fan. Most mad I've been a football fan in a long time. At a single game. That's a game that would have been a statement win for the Pats. Beating the Minnesota Vikings, an 8-2 team on the season going into that game. And New England, they had it. They really did. They were up 23-16 in the third quarter. And, only got 3 points the rest of the game. Got outscored 17-3 from that point on. And it hurts as a Patriots fan. Mac Jones, it was probably the best game of his career from a stats standpoint. 382 yards, a couple touchdowns, no picks. But it's just disappointing, man. Feels like the Patriots always lose these type of games. The high-scoring shootout games. the back and forth affairs. And, that was really one of the only times the defense really let down the Patriots this year. That was the first time in a very long time it's happened. Probably only since week 3, first time in over 2 months, I would say, since that Ravens game. But it's game the Pats should have won, should have closed out. Definitely a lot of questionable calls by the Patriots. I mean, there were definitely a lot of questionable calls by the refs in favor of the Vikings. But, some tough plays for the Patriots. I mean, settling for 4 field goals. I think 3 of those in the red zone, too.
Yeah.
One on 4th and 1 from, the 30-something yard line. It's tough. Got to definitely take more risks. I think Belichick's got to trust Mac Jones more in this offense. There was also a 4th and 1 where they punted, I think, at the 40-yard line. It was indoors as well, which is, I thought was interesting. But I just feel like the confidence in the offense isn't completely there. I feel like it's almost there. Maybe next year we'll see it. And it's a whole mix of things. It's the quarterback play, it's the receivers we got, it's the personnel we have, and it's the guys calling the plays as well. There's not a lot of certainty or structure in that, and I think it really showed on Sunday night or Thursday night in the last quarter and a half, because that first 3 quarters of football was the best the Patriots has looked all season long. Everyone was getting involved. Everyone was making plays. Aguilar made a great catch over the middle for a touchdown on the first drive. Hunter Henry, like you said, had a great touchdown, and then had one taken off the board as well. But the biggest factor in this game, when it was all said and done, was Pierre Strong running into the kicker in a tied football game with 6.5 minutes to go. I think it was actually 9 minutes to go. Just tough. I mean, you can't make a play like that, especially on a 4th and 4. If it was a 4th and 6, it still would have been 4th and 1. It was 4th and 4, a 5-yard penalty, first down. And that's just a rookie making a dumb mistake. And you see Belichick was really, really upset with him afterwards, as he should be. And all Patriots fans were as well. But that's really what cost the Patriots the game. And I think the last quarter, our 4th quarter offense is horrendous, by the way. So definitely got to figure it out in the 4th quarter, man. It just sucks. It's not looked good all year.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, with that running into the punter thing, I get it. They kind of have to call it. The guy, he ran right into him. But at the end of the day, you watch the replay, the leg's coming down. It just barely touches him, and he falls to the ground. I think there's a little bit of acrobat work going on there. But at the end of the day, it was a huge deflation to the Patriots defense, because you get the stop, and then you give up on the punt with that penalty. And it just allowed the Vikings to make do and march down the field and get that score to take the lead. And something I wanted to note that I've noted on this show before with Mac Jones is he gets too anxious. And that's something we saw in the 4th quarter, was when he noticed that his first option, or maybe his second option, was out of the realm of possibility for him to throw to, he would panic, and he would scramble all over the place and throw the ball either into the dirt or in a place where the defender couldn't get it. Instead of or get sacked, and he wouldn't take off half the time. And at the end of the game, we did see he kind of, like, with the way he fell when he was sacked on that one of those final plays, he fell to the ground and he looked like he was in some sort of pain. So obviously he's still dealing with the ankle injury, but this is just growing pains for Mac Jones this season. I think he's finally getting into what the NFL is, and he's discovering. And what we saw in the beginning of the game was he was getting the throws out quick, less than 2 seconds half the time to make a decision to throw the ball. And then as the game went on, Vikings threw up different types of coverages, made him think more. And at the end of the day, he panicked. And that's the problem, I think, right now, is Mac Jones needs a little more calm and poise in the pocket, because as the quarterback, that's what your job is. You need to remain calm in situations like that. You got to step up. You got to roll out. You got to do something to gain your team yards. And Mac Jones, it was tough to see where the game ended. He played great that night, but there was a lot left on the field, I think. There really was. And I mean, a huge deflation, I think, was after that Patriots score that gave us the lead. You had the kickoff return for the touchdown by Minnesota that really set them back.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Kene Nwangwu, probably the best return in the league right now, maybe besides Cordell Patterson. I want to say that, but that was a great play by him. He's a beast. Took it to the house, man. Just crazy stuff. Just sucks.
Yeah, and I mean, Justin Jefferson, you have to give him credit too in this one. Another unbelievable performance, 9 catches for 139 yards and a touchdown. Then Adam Thielen, 9 catches for 61 yards and the touchdown that sealed the deal to have the Vikings walk away with the victory in this one. Patriots run game, though, you got to give them credit. They held this offense to only 57 rushing yards. 42 of those were from Dalvin Cook on 22 carries. His longest run was 6 yards in the game. So that's a positive.
Dalvin Cook?
Yeah, Cook.
His longest run was 6 yards?
That was his longest run of the whole game was
Really?
6. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So the Pats defense, run defense, did its job. The passing game, obviously, it kind of fell asleep, and rightfully so. It just kind of came down to it. And, I mean, at the end of the day, for me in this one, it stings because now with that Jets victory, the Patriots fall back to last place in the AFC East. The Cincinnati Bengals won last night, and that puts them in a better position. They might actually be in the wild card round right now if the playoffs were to end today. So, Patriots, they have a tough schedule going forward. We're not going to preview it just yet. They play the Bills this Thursday. We'll be here to cover that before that happens. But the schedule only gets tougher for them. And at this point, this was the game they needed to win, I feel, if they want to have the seed, it be a determination that this team is going to make the playoffs.
Now New England out of the playoff picture, the current 8th seed. Jets catapulted them. Bengals at 6 now. And the Bills still at 5, but it's really tough. Good thing they still have the tiebreaker over the Chargers, I believe. Yes. Still sitting at 6 and 5. But the Patriots, they needed that game. They were right in it. Now you got 2 games against Buffalo in the last 6 of the season. 2 games on the road against Arizona and Las Vegas. You got a game against the Bengals at home and against the Dolphins at home. It's not an easy schedule, man. Those are 4 games against teams in playoff position right now.
Yeah, so, and even with the Raiders and the Cardinals,
they're all in AFC position as well. So they're all going to matter a lot, those games especially.
Yeah, and I mean, even with the Cardinals and the Raiders, those are 2 teams that are not doing well at all this season. They still are competitive. These are very competitive football teams, and we saw Josh Jacobs run all over the Seattle Seahawks defense yesterday, and then the Cardinals just barely lost after a 2-point try from the Los Angeles Chargers that put them over the board 25-24. Cardinals were in that game, though. So those are 2 teams that are still going to pack a lot of punch against the Patriots, and it's really tough to see where they'll go from here. But as of right now in the present, the Patriots fall to 6 and 5 after this loss, after going on a nice little win streak for a little while. Minnesota Vikings move up to 9 and 2. They are now second in the NFC playoff picture behind the Philadelphia Eagles, who defeated the Green Bay Packers last night to remain 10 and 1. So Patriots will have a tough schedule moving forward, and we'll be sure to give you more coverage as time goes on with that. So
open up the week, by the way. Open up the week right now. I just checked. They are +5 at home this Thursday night. This Buffalo Bills. So
it's not a bad spread. It's not. I thought it would be a lot.
I thought it'd be like 6.5 maybe. But
yeah.
The odds makers, they kind of suck Buffalo Schmeat. So
well, that and then it is a division rival, so the game's going to be close.
In Foxborough too. If it was in Buffalo, they'd probably be like -9 right now. So
yeah.
They say honestly, a 3-point swing goes in favor of the home team. So we'll see.
Yeah, time will tell. So tough loss. It was a good Thanksgiving game. It was definitely, in my opinion, the best of the bunch that we had that day. Lions game was good, though. I have to admit, I did like the Lions game for once. That's usually a game that's abysmal, and the Lions could have walked away with one.
It usually is, and they should have won. I live bet them. They were like +400, and I thought they was going to win, but yeah, I don't know.
Can't bet against Josh Allen in prime time. It's tough. It's tough. It really is.
Really tough.
But all right, so
whatever, man.
Yeah, it is.
And against him this week in prime time. How's that sound?
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see if we can actually get a victory as the Patriots this week in prime time. That will be this Thursday once again in Foxborough against the Buffalo Bills. So now we move to Monday night preview. So in just an hour, kickoff will commence in Indianapolis as the Pittsburgh Steelers sitting at 3-7. This is the first time I mind you that Mike Tomlin's had a losing season so far with the Steelers. We'll see if it finishes that way, but as of right now, it's pretty set in stone. So they'll travel to the 4-6-1 Indianapolis Colts. This one is a little bit of a doozy of a Monday night matchup. But you got Matt Ryan going up against Kenny Pickett, Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Deontay Washington, I think. I don't know. It is what it is. It's the Colts
Dante
team.
Johnson.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is gonna be a doozy. Like you said, Mike Tomlin's the worst team he's ever had, but it's definitely a tough team for him this year. First year without Big Ben. If they could flex Monday night football games, that would be dope. They actually can, starting in I think 2024, I think, or 26. They're gonna be able to flex Monday night football games out. And if the year was one of those years, this game would not be on tonight. This game would have been moved to 1 o'clock yesterday. That's how bad teams have been this year. But this is gonna be a slugfest. This could be a game that Pittsburgh steals, but I literally just put $20 on the Colts, like on air, few
Wow.
minutes ago.
Wow.
So they're -2.5 right now at home. This Colts team has looked surprisingly a lot better with Jeff Saturday at the helm. I mean, not very surprisingly because Matt Ryan is back at the helm as well. This is an organization that they feel like they have something to prove. With an interim head coach, with the odds stacked against them. And, last week against the Eagles, they played a great defensive game. That's the best defensive game any team has played against the Birds probably all year. Was the Colts last week. So I like the Colts tonight. I really do. I mean, I'm not huge on Kenny Pickett just yet. So this is a second primetime game, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know, man. I don't know if he has him to go on the road and kind of just beat this Indianapolis team. I'm going to be honest, but that line is very sus. The Colts are only -2.5, so don't be surprised if they do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely in the same boat as you. I'm definitely feeling the Colts much more so than what we're seeing in Pittsburgh. I just think Pittsburgh is they're due. They're due right now. You have the transition from a franchise quarterback, a future Hall of Fame quarterback, to now a rookie, and going between him and a veteran like Mitch Trubisky. And then it's tough. In order for them to win this game, they're really going to have to go a lot of run heavy schemes, considering Najee Harris is the cowbell. But it's just that Colts defensive line is just solid when it comes to stopping the run. So it's going to be tough for me to even see them put anything together. Kenny Pickett's going to have to light up the board with everything. And I mean, for me right now, the odds are stacked against them. I'm going to take the Colts. I mean, Matt Ryan, he's just looked solid since he came back into the fold. Jonathan Taylor finally starting to look healthy again after having a great week last week. So for me, I mean, it's going to be a close game. I think regardless, I think both teams are going to make it competitive. But I think if we had to pick a final score right now, I'm going to go with a final of 23-16 Colts.
23-16 Colts. I like that. I'm going to say it's going to be 20-16 Colts. Low scoring game. I think it'll be a low scoring affair. I think that spread's going to be a nail biter. I think the Colts squeeze out of it with a victory.
Yeah, I think, it's definitely safe to say that at least you never know. You never know, especially with teams like this who are bottom of the barrel when it comes to picking between the two. So we'll see how Monday Night Football goes. That should be in about an hour. Definitely might sit down, tune in for a little bit, see how that game unfolds and everything. But speaking of the AFC North, since we were just mentioning the AFC North and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and mentioning a guy whose name has been brought up numerous amount of times, probably more than we'd actually like to have on the show, but we have to talk about it because today the Browns officially made the designation to waive, I believe it was Joshua Dobbs. They waived Joshua Dobbs and activate Deshaun Watson to the active 53-man roster. Deshaun Watson's suspension cleared as of last week, and he will be the starter of the Cleveland Browns this upcoming week. So that's a lot to unpack. We haven't seen Deshaun Watson play since the
time
preseason.
Is finally here.
Yeah, the time is finally here. We've been waiting for 2 years now. We haven't seen this guy play in a regular season game since 2020, and now we finally get to see him play, and I'm not ecstatic. This isn't me being ecstatic. This is me being a mixture of, okay, let's see the guy go, and okay, this guy is a piece of you-know-what.
I'm also just relieved we can stop talking about this dude. We're going to talk about him probably next week after he plays his game. Because he's probably the most single-mentioned person on this show, non-Patriots related. I mean, it's crazy.
It's almost the Deshaun Watson show after a while.
Me and you started the show a very long time ago in January 2021, Unapologetic. That is, we had our old podcast, of course, at URI. But, he literally has not played a game in the entire span of us making the show.
Yeah.
Crazy. And the allegations kind of came up around that same time. So he's been a very frequent person we've talked about on this show. But he's finally back for the Browns. Revenge game in Houston. I mean, the NFL script writers couldn't have made it any better than this. This is going to be a crazy
Of
game.
course.
I
Of course,
think
that's the game.
the Houston crowd is going to be finally packed for a game. It's going to be sold out probably for the first time all year. And the tickets are going to come a little bit expensive, I think, to go see Deshaun Watson play in Houston in a little revenge game, if you will. But I'm excited for this one. This is probably the most highly touted Browns Texans game ever.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this, and I'm not a Deshaun Watson fan, as you know, Chet. I think he has too much of a dirty history for me to ever like him, really. And I think he's a little bit sus, but I think that ultimately, this is going to be a game to watch. It's going to be a game for the ages. And
For the ages, okay.
the ages. I mean, this is such a bizarre situation right now. Deshaun Watson has not played in the last 28 regular season games that he could have. He really was out for the better part of 2 seasons because of these shenanigans, and he was almost out this entire year as well. Got his suspension moved from 6 games to 11 games. And coming back against the Texans, it was definitely a weird, suspension getting 11 games.
Yeah.
But I think they did it for this game against Houston, so that's why I'm excited for it. It's gonna be a great game. Deshaun Watson, he's gonna make this Browns team better if he still has it. I don't think he's gonna skip. I don't think he's gonna skip a huge beat. He's very talented. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Had one of the best starts to a career of any quarterback ever. His passer rating is great for his career. I think he's a really talented quarterback. And this Browns team, they have a lot of weapons. So, they're gonna watch out for Cleveland to maybe win a few games and sneak into the AFC playoff picture in the last few weeks of the season. But at 4-7, you're probably too far in right now, too far deep, and a little bit long gone. But I'm pumped for this game. I'm genuinely pumped for this game, dude.
Yeah. It should be a good one. I mean, it really is. I mean, you talk about a great way to set up Deshaun Watson to come back into the starting role after a big win at home against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 23-17. Crazy that the Bucs managed to just let that game slip out of their fingertips. And for Deshaun Watson now, he comes back to Houston to play this team. And I mean, it's a perfect setup for him to kind of come into the fold, potentially putting your team at 5-7 to further push into the playoff picture. But you got some tough games right after that. You go to Cincinnati, you come home and play the Ravens and the Saints, and then you're on the road playing the Commanders and the Steelers to finish the season. So Watson, he didn't have a good start to the preseason. In the preseason, he looked very, very rusty. So it questions what we're going to see because he hasn't really been able to practice this, guys. He hasn't been able to participate in any practices or team facilities until this week. And then he was finally activated. So we'll see how everything comes together. But as of right now, I mean, you look at Watson's career numbers. He has over 14,000 passing yards with 104 touchdown passes. And this is only in 4 seasons. 4 seasons. That's something to know. And then in terms of rushing, over 1,000 yards, 1,677, 17 rushing touchdowns. So obviously, with his off the field stuff, we have nothing but bad things to say about that. But in terms of what he brings to the field, he is just that guy who can definitely bring your team to a potential playoff berth and even a Super Bowl if may be. Cleveland has looked like a very interesting unit this year. Amari Cooper stepped in very well. Donovan Peoples-Jones has really kind of just exploded as time's gone on.
A little bit. Good fans pick up by me. I like him. Love his name too.
And then also you got Nick Chubb, who's still carrying the rock like no other. It would be interesting to see them get Kareem Hunt more involved, but at the end of the day, this Browns front seven is one of the best in the league, and that defense brings a lot of problems to the table. We saw it yesterday. So I think Cleveland's in a good spot in terms of potentially making a late season playoff push, but it's going to take a lot at the end of the day. And I think it's huge they get Watson back, but obviously based on what we've seen with the allegations and such, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. And this Browns team, a lot of interesting headlines this season. And I think this just adds to it. Like you said, there's a lot of names on this team, a lot of good, talented players, and this team that really, even without Deshaun Watson coming into the year, they were projected to still make the playoffs, to make a push for it at least, maybe win 10, 11 games. And sitting at 4-7, they're better than their record, I would say. They've lost a lot of close games.
Yeah.
Their defense has really struggled this year. It's been pretty bad, honestly. But their offense, they've been putting up points. Even with Brissett playing quarterback, they were putting up points. And, they still looked good. And the only games they really got blown out against were the Patriots and Dolphins games, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think with Deshaun coming back, he makes this team a lot better. And, they're going to be special. But it all starts with this week, one game at a time. And, like you said, it's tough to kind of see how quarterbacks will come back and do well. I mean, we kind of see with Russell Wilson this year taking one of the most meteoric downgrades ever in NFL history from 1 year to the other. So hopefully for Deshaun Watson's case, or hopefully for everyone who does not like Deshaun Watson, that he does not fall in the same boat.
Yeah. So, I mean, time will tell. This is definitely big news in the league that he is coming back, Deshaun Watson, and we'll see how he performs down the stretch of things. So now we move into the final segment of tonight. Quick show. Definitely not what most people are used to. But we're going to go over the top 3 players of Week 12. And we got ourselves some good candidates. I mean, we obviously have to start off by giving an honorable mention to the man who rushed for a lot of yards last night and several touchdowns. Miles Sanders finishing the night with 143 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, added on to Jalen Hurts' $157. Eagles made history last night with that. It was incredible to see. But honorable mention right there. And we hop into the number 3.
Great game.
And we hop into the number 3 guy whose name I literally just mentioned, Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts sitting at number 3, had 153 passing yards last night on top of his 157 rushing, threw for 2 touchdowns in the game, and propelled the Eagles to a 10-1 record in a 40-33 win over the Green Bay Packers at home.
Yeah, I mean, what'd you say the score was?
40-33.
I thought you said 33-10. I was like, geez, I think it was closer than that. Yeah, 43-3. Very not very anticipated high scoring game coming into it, but the Packers brought the heat. But Jalen Hurts, he brought a desert. I was trying to think of something hotter than heat. But he brought it all. He brought it all. Had a great game. 2 touchdowns through the air, a couple of dots, may I add. And the real thing is why he's on this list is just how dominant that Eagles rushing attack was. I mean, this Eagles rushing team last night had 363 rushing yards last night, and Jalen Hurts had 157 of them. I mean, this is the year of the rushing quarterback. I mean, we might see 3 quarterbacks go over 1,000 rushing yards this year in Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, and Lamar Jackson. Kind of shows how the quarterback is becoming a more diverse position as well. Mm-hmm. And Jalen Hurts really doing great things for the quarterback. And last night, great example. A buck 57 on the ground. He is just churning his legs all year long. And he's had a lot of these games this year, but that one last night was probably the most impressive. I mean, last night, watching Jalen Hurts in the pocket, if nothing was open, he was getting about 8 yards every single time he ran with that rock, at least a first down pretty much every time. I mean, he seemed unstoppable. Miles Sanders too, 143. We could actually tag team these two. I think. I mean, they were both phenomenal. It was just a great game. It was a great game by the Eagles offense in general. 40 points on the board. I think that's a season high. I might be mistaken, but yeah, it was just great performance by Philadelphia, and Jalen Hurts definitely is an elite quarterback right now in the NFL.
He absolutely is. And Miles Sanders having by far probably one of the best rushing games of his career. And so for the both of them, they can enjoy that number 3 spot on our list. But that doesn't take away from the number 2 and 1 spot. So we'll start at number 2. And this is a guy, he hasn't appeared on the list as of yet this season, but he has had himself a very interesting year. It started off very sluggish, and now it's kind of slowly working its way back to what we expected potentially. Trevor Lawrence yesterday pulling out an upset over the Baltimore Ravens, final in that one, 28-27 in Jacksonville. They sneak past the Ravens. And Trevor Lawrence, 29 for 37 in the game with 321 passing yards and 3 tutties. One going to JaMychal Hasty, another going to Jamal Agnew, and then the other one going to Marvin Jones Jr. A great game by him, and he deserves the number 2 spot on our list.
Sure does. I mean, that was really Trevor Lawrence's, I think, coming of age moment in the NFL. This is a guy coming into this game, only had 6 career wins in the regular season. People have been calling him a bust a lot this year, and I don't agree with that at all. I think yesterday really shows it. And that was really his game yesterday of his career. I mean, being a Ravens team like that, it was 7-3 coming into your barn, and Jacksonville, their defense stepped up, held Baltimore to 4 field goals through the first 3 quarters. Then the Ravens got a couple touchdowns in the fourth, including the one to take the lead and, to most fans, win the game. But, I think this was the first example of don't count out Trevor Lawrence. And we saw him have a great drive, converted a 2nd and 15, a 4th and 5 on the drive to Zay Jones. He had a huge dot to Zay Jones a couple plays later, set him up at the 8-yard line. And then the winner to Marvin Jones, he had that incredible catch, getting his shin in bounds. 1 shin is equal to 2 feet. And a 2-point conversion. Doug Pearson put the trust in his quarterback. You love to see it. And, in the past, this year and last year, there wasn't a lot of trust in Trevor Lawrence, I feel like, to win games like that. But he put that ball on the money on that 2-point try with 14 seconds left to Zay Jones. And, Zay Jones, he used to have like a contender for one of our players as well. If it was the top 5, I would put him up in there.
Yeah.
10 catches, $116, I think it was. But Trevor Lawrence,
he had 11 for 145.
11 for 1, yeah, because he had that was the catch. He had a 29-yard catch, set him up at the 8-yard line. Great throw by Lawrence. He was throwing dots that whole drive, making plays, and I'm happy to see him succeed because, like I said, there was a lot of kind of uncertainty about Trevor Lawrence, about what he was able to do as a quarterback in the NFL. But I think yesterday against a really good team like the Ravens, he just showed out. He balled out as well, and happy for him, man.
Yeah, I'm definitely very happy for him because, I mean, even coming into the league, I was always a big Trevor Lawrence supporter. This is a guy who just lit it up in college, and he came to the NFL and didn't really. I mean, obviously, he was going to go to this team no matter what. There is no way the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to let him fall down the board. But despite having a disappointing rookie season, coming into his sophomore year, he's really starting to step up and become more comfortable with the team that he has in front of him, and really kind of silencing a lot of doubters in that regard. I mean, the Jags are still very uncompetitive in terms of where they may end up going down the stretch of things. I would not see them I would be shocked if they made a playoff push. Their schedule consists of playing the Lions next week, the Titans, the Cowboys, the Jets, the Texans, and the Titans again. The odds are stacked against them, but the layout for future seasons for the Jaguars, it looks so good. And people are really criticizing Christian Kirk and the amount of money he was being given. But you look at the stats for Christian Kirk, he's been putting up solid numbers for a guy who was getting paid $75 million. That everybody was like, that's not a true number 1 guy. But Trevor Lawrence proved yesterday that Christian Kirk's not the main target all the time. He dumped it off to Zay Jones. He got to Marvin Jones Jr. He was spreading the ball. And that's what you need from a quarterback. And the Jaguars are laying the ground for future seasons to come. And he's right at the forefront there. And that was a prime example, taking down one of the toughest teams in the AFC, who will without a doubt make the postseason this year.
I mean, we said that last year when the Ravens were 8-3, so we can hold our horses a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We shall. So that moves us up to the number 1 spot. And I mean, really, this goes without saying. What a game. What a game in general. I wish I had access to watching this game because it was entertaining just by looking at the scoreboard. A lot of offense, little to no defense. But of course, the guy you have to look at is Josh Jacobs. 33 carries, 229 rushing yards, 2 TDs, one of those being an 86-yard run on the first play in overtime to win the game, and then followed by 6 receptions for 74 receiving yards in the game. Over 300 total yards of scrimmage for Josh Jacobs, and he without a doubt deserves the number 1 spot. Probably for the season, honestly. He had one of the biggest games. I mean, you could say
game all year by any player, yeah.
You could say Joe Mixon, but honestly, just the way Josh Jacobs was moving the ball, his energy, his fire at the end of the game, it's everything you want in a player.
Yeah, and very rarely do you have a guy rush for 200 in a game, let alone have 300 scrimmage yards in the game. 229 on the ground, 74 receiving for Josh Jacobs, and the game-winning touchdown overtime, an 86-yarder. What a game it was for Jacobs. I mean, he's on his contract year right now. He's pounding the rock like no other. He looks like a top 3 back in the NFL right now.
Right
And
now, he's ranked the #1 back in fantasy.
well, I mean, that's what I was going to have a 50-point game. You know, he ranked in the top 3. I think he was 4th before that, anyways. So,
oh yeah, he's been having a phenomenal year.
definitely was probably the pick of the year in fantasy for a lot of guys. I didn't pick him in any league, which is annoying.
Yeah,
but
I only have him in one of them.
yeah, but what a great game for him. And I think all year he's been really showing why he should not have gotten his 5th-year option declined by the Raiders. And yesterday really proved it. I mean, against the Seahawks team that you just bumped Seattle out of the postseason picture for the time being. They fall the 8th seed in the NFC. And the Raiders back-to-back overtime wins with a touchdown, both in marvelous fashion. I mean, last week with Devontae Adams, yesterday with Josh Jacobs. So the Raiders that they were supposed to be all year long, you know, valiant, resilient, and winning games, and they've done it 2 weeks in a row. And you never know, man. Maybe they'll have some momentum in these next few weeks and churn off some victories to make the AFC a little bit interesting. But 4-7 are the Raiders right now. Josh Jacobs, the bright spot on this team, him and Devontae Adams for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, Jacobs stealing the show. I mean, what a game! What a game! That run overtime. I mean, I live bet Seattle because I was down bad, and it really watching him run 6 yards. I was kind of just like, I can't even hate it, man. That's just one of the best plays I've seen in overtime ever.
Yeah.
You never get a play like that in overtime and an 86-yard touchdown. With a few minutes left in OT is just bizarre. So good stuff for Josh Jacobs. He deserves a player of the week. He'll get it in the NFL for sure. And he just snatched it away from Trevor Lawrence, AFC Offensive Player of the Week. So shout out to Josh Jacobs, man.
And you look at the momentum that this team's on, and they have some winnable games coming up. They play the Chargers next week at home. They go to LA to play the Rams. They come home and play the Pats, go quickly back to the road to play Pittsburgh. And then they finish the season off against 2 tough opponents. They play the Niners and then the Chiefs, both at home. But the Raiders, you've got Derek Carr, Darren Waller. Devontae Adams has basically been stapled that he's going to be cemented as a part of this Raiders offense for future seasons to come. And now the Raiders should follow suit and do the same thing with Josh Jacobs. If this didn't prove anything, I don't know what will, because that was a career performance, and this should easily put this guy on a long-term extension with this team, because Josh Jacobs is a guy who came into the league solid back, but over time has really proven that he's a stud, an absolute stud, and he deserves to be paid this offseason.
Absolute stud. Those Bama boys are built different, Chet.
They truly are.
Truly are.
They truly are.
I mean, you're going to see a game like that maybe the rest of his career. So,
yeah,
I mean, he should enjoy it. You don't really get 300 yards in a game from anybody. I think that's the first one this season from anybody. Rushing and receiving, definitely not passing. But
yeah,
that was just awesome. It was an awesome showing. And by the way, I mentioned this stat last week. Derek Carr, 2 years later, finally breaks his streak. And he has his first 3 touchdown pass game since week 13 of 2020.
Wow. That's nuts. That's nuts.
What a drive that was by the Raiders to tie the game. I mean, Foster Moreau, the end zone catch to tie the game with a little bit under 2 minutes to go. Seattle had a couple chances. They had a chance in overtime. They had a chance at the end of the 4th quarter. That Raiders defense, man, they stepped up big. Stepped up huge.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of facets of the game they all stepped up in, and who knows, like we said, this could be a similar Raiders like magic that we saw from last year. Potentially, you never know. But the playoff picture seems pretty set, not set in stone, but it's getting there. It's getting to that point.
Set. It's week 12,
I know. I'm just amping it up a bit. We're getting close. We still got over a month to go until the postseason. But wow, Duffy, I mean, this NFL season always flies. It's what I've realized every single week is it flies. It really does.
Sure does. And it sucks, man.
It is what it is. That's sports.
So, like, you know, I mean, we still have 6 more weeks of regular season, 6 weeks of playoffs, or about 5 weeks of playoffs. But, oh, man, it's making me sad thinking about it. I'm going to miss this a lot. So,
yeah,
we're already officially past the full year midpoint, including the Super Bowl. which sucks, but hey, it's okay. There's a lot of good football ahead. This is the best time of the year.
Yep.
Is this part of football season? I think week 12, 13 is when the real football starts. A new season starts the last third of the year, and they get the postseason. Every team will give it all they got, and I'm so hyped.
I am too. I just can't wait to see these players put everything they got on the field, every way, shape, and form.
Especially Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, especially him.
On and off the field.
Thank you all for tuning in to tonight's episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. We'll be back Thursday, and this is a given because we did not give our locks or upsets for this week. We did not expect it to go this way, but to make suit for that, to follow suit, we will be picking 2 locks and 2 upsets to make up for week 12. Right now, when we look at the record, Duffy leads in locks and upsets at 13-9, while Chet trails at 11-11. So this upcoming week, 2 locks and upsets, that could spell a lot for the record going forward. So we'll see what happens there.
And since we didn't get them in on time, we got to omit my my Patriots upset that I said last Monday.
Yeah,
we made a show on Friday. So yeah, that was fire. I actually saw Chet Friday too. We should have done a live show together.
We should have. We honestly should have. That was something.
Chet was in my basement and I was in his house. And
I know.
Didn't cross our minds once.
I know. I was kind of just like, I think I was just tired from like all these work weeks and everything. And finally actually had some time to rest.
Chet was so tired.
Yeah, I was very tired. Thank you all for tuning into this week's episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. We'll see you all on Thursday. This is Chet and Duffy signing off. And as always, go Pats.